What's going on? This is James with Blue Collar Mechanics. In this video, we're going to talk about how much mechanics actually make and the ways and types of pay that are offered to mechanics in the industry. And specifically, I'm speaking towards auto mechanics and diesel mechanics. That's what I have all my experience in. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and stick around and let's roll. Now, if you're just looking for inaccurate numbers, a quick Google search, I'll put it right here next to me. You can just kind of see rough numbers for what mechanics actually make. But in this video, we are going to dive much deeper than that. We're going to talk about 3 different types of pay. We're going to talk about averages, what good money is, what crap money is, getting started, experienced, etc. So stick around and we'll get to all that. How much mechanics actually make is a complicated topic because unlike most other jobs where you show up and they've provided everything for you to do your job, we have to provide all of our own tools, which it's not cheap. Even if you go the cheap route, it's not cheap. So also, by the way, if you want to watch a video on how to save a bunch of money on tools, I'll have a link in the description below. Go watch it, save yourself at least $5,000. Without further ado, we're going to dive right into the 3 different types of pay for mechanics. You have hourly, which is just like everybody else who works at 8 to 5. You punch in, you punch out, you get paid for your time, you exchange your time for money. On the opposite of that, you have what's called a flat rate mechanic, which flat rate mechanics are basically subcontractors. We only get paid for the jobs that we complete. So if it's a 1-hour job, it doesn't matter if it takes us 1 hour, 2 hours, 30 minutes, we get paid for 1 hour because we got paid specifically for that job. The times for each job vary. So the third type of way that we as mechanics get paid is like a hybrid between hourly and straight flat rate. There may be a 4th way that mechanics get paid. I've never met a mechanic that got paid salary, but maybe that's something. If you know someone or if you are in the trade and you get paid salary, go ahead and let us know in the comments below what it's like, because I have no clue what that pay will be like if that's what you're looking for, some kind of salary job. I've never seen or heard of it if you were just a straight mechanic. If you're a foreman, maybe, but not a straight mechanic. So let's talk about getting paid hourly as a mechanic. When I started out, which a lot of mechanics that start out, we get paid by the hour. This is typically because you're just not experienced yet. You're going to be learning a lot on the clock if you're, teachable or coachable. I do recommend someone starting out to be an hourly mechanic because then you don't have any stress of, oh, I have to get this done in a certain time. You're strictly getting paid for your time, so you're just working the best you can to get the job done. You're not gonna lose money if it takes you too long. If you are starting out, hourly is a good spot as long as you're getting paid a good amount of money, which is gonna come down to a completely different topic, which is negotiating your pay, which would be a good idea. So that's pretty straightforward. When you get paid hourly, you get paid for your time. When I started off, I was getting paid $14 an hour as a mechanic, and I was completely green. They knew I was completely green. That's what I started off, and that's what I made for about a year. But the good thing about that was we worked 65 to 70 hours a week. So after overtime, I was making a decent pay, especially for someone who really was still learning a lot and didn't even have a lot of tools yet. So if you don't have a lot of tools, that's going to dictate a lot of your pay. If you have a decent tool set, that pretty much means you've already paid your dues, which means you have some experience. You might not be great, but part of what you get paid is going to be determined by what kind of tools. What are you bringing to the shop? So that is something you need to think about when you go in for an interview or when you go in to negotiate. If you're going to negotiate for an hourly rate, or any rate for that matter, is going to be, what kind of tools do you have? Do you have every tool that you're ever going to need? You basically don't need a tool ever, or are you going to be borrowing, or are you just not equipped yet to be a mechanic, fully functioning mechanic over there in his own bay doing his own thing? And I will say, in terms of someone who gets paid hourly, there are positions, if you look and you keep your eyes open, you may have to travel, you may have to move to a different state, but for mechanics that make 27 to 45 an hour, that comes out to be, making 27 to 45 an hour can bring you $54,000 to $90,000 a year. So keep that in mind. Don't rule out hourly. There are some good positions. If you can get into a construction company where they're just gonna max out your hours and you're gonna get more than 20 bucks an hour, you're gonna make good money. So hourly could be a good option. So the second type of pay we're gonna talk about is the most controversial, which is a flat rate mechanic. This can be a challenging way to get paid depending on how experienced you are, what kind of tools you own. In terms of how we actually get paid, so for example, every brake job typically is a 1 hour brake job. If it takes me 30 minutes and it pays an hour, I still get an hour. And so that's a really good way to make money, because if you can do 30-minute brake job, 30 minute, 30 minute, 30 minute, 30 minute, you can do 12 to 15 brake jobs in a day. I mean, in 8 hours. Am I saying that that's easy to do? No, you're gonna hustle your ass off. You're gonna work as hard as you possibly can, because you know every brake job you get done is going to show up on your paycheck. So it's much different than working hourly, where you have to be here anyways, and who cares how much you really get done. But when you're flat rate, your productivity, your production is what is going to determine your paycheck, and that is how you really can make money. Because once you get good at things, pulling motors, pulling transmissions, even diagnostics, if you get really good at diagnostics, most diagnostics are a minimum of an hour. If you can figure it out in 15 minutes, you can see that's a 4x profit rate, because you did an hour's worth of work in 15 minutes. So the more you increase that efficiency, the more you're actually going to be able to make, and actually the more the shops are going to value you, and therefore the more you'll be able to negotiate that pay. And just in general, it can be very stressful. Even if you are good, it can be stressful because it's a completely performance-based position. So if you can't turn more than 40 hours in a week, if you can't turn more than 60, whatever the case is, you're gonna be stressed out, because that money that you are or aren't making, because none of it's guaranteed, is going to determine if you can pay your bills or not on Friday. So it can be stressful. Now, I will say this: once you have your tools in place, you have your systems in place on how you approach everything, it can be a very, very good way to get paid. It just depends how you look at it. Now, the flip side to getting paid flat rate is that sometimes you can get completely fucked. And I mean, you're like one rust bucket away. This vehicle comes into your bay and you can't fix it correctly, and the customer doesn't have the money, or whatever the case may be, and it's tied up your bay. Even if you get compensated for your time, it's made your job harder just by tying up your bay. Most mechanics, they only have one bay. So one rust bucket could really cost you some money in terms of getting your jobs done, or just even getting your jobs done efficiently. Then you have the fact that it may not even be a rust bucket, but someone else cross-threaded a bolt that worked on it before you. Now you have to deal with that. Now the book time that they've come up with for this job is out the window. And the problem lies in that typically, in my experience, shops do not have a good way of explaining this to the customer and getting the customer to understand. Therefore, the customer doesn't want to take the hit. The shop doesn't want to take the hit. So who does everybody lean on in this situation? The mechanic working on the vehicle. That's where we start to get fucked, and that is where I love to draw the line in the sand for whoever I'm working for and say, hey, you really are crossing the line with what is expected of me and what I'm getting compensated for. And that's the best way to explain it too. Don't say, I ain't fucking doing this shit. Go to them and say, hey, I get compensated for what I complete. Now, if you're asking me to complete something that I can't be compensated for on paper, why are you asking me to do it? That's the best way to go about it. It is a frictional thing, and it's not an every time thing. There are times I would recommend that what I do is, there's sometimes where I go ahead and hook it up and take care of the shop, because this is where I work and these are our customers. And then there are times where I'm like, hey man, this is way out of line. This is way too much. We need to stop and get all this approved and get it on the ticket. That way we can get our commission straightened out. But you have to know how to work with your shop and get your shop to work with you. It can't just be fuck you. And I've had that attitude and it doesn't work. Trust me. I am no longer flat rate, but when I was, after I got my tools situated and I got a certain amount of experience, I would say about 1.5 to 2 years being flat rate and getting used to that pay scale, I was turning out 50 to 70 hours a week, and that was anything from brakes to transmissions to alignments to front end work to some diag. We had a guy that was really good for heavy diag, so I just didn't have to do a lot of heavy diag. But in terms of R&Ring almost anything or doing alignments, that's where I made a bunch of money. And you can too. You just have to get good, get tools, and work hard, man. Show up every day. You know how uncommon it is for mechanics to show up every day for work? There's a lot of mechanics. Once they start making that money, they get on drugs, or the money's too easy, so they make 3 days worth of money and then they don't come back to work. But if you work hard, you work 5-6 days a week, which is what I was doing, you will progress. You will pick up all those hours that nobody else wants or nobody else can do. And it's a really good way to make money. So let's talk numbers. When I started off as flat rate, I was hourly, but the shop came to me. They told me they wanted me to become flat rate. They thought it would be beneficial for them and me. And it actually was. And they came to me, they said, we'd like to start you off at 25 an hour flat rate. And I already knew what flat rate was. So I was really excited. We kind of knew, oh, I can beat these times. If I could just be flat rate, I would make much, much more. And so I was very excited, and I started off at 25 an hour flat rate. This was a few years ago, 2020. So this was 3 years ago. So with inflation, I mean, that 25 would probably be 30 something right now. But that started me off at 25, and then a few months in, I was doing very well, and they just came to me and they gave me another $5. So $30 an hour flat rate is what I was making. And I'm serious, I was turning out 50 hours. At the time, I wasn't that experienced yet, and I had just started as a flat rate. So I was turning 50, 55 hours, but really busted my ass to hit those numbers, feeling accomplished to hit 50. And within a year though, about a year and a half in, within a year, 50 hours was boring. I mean, I could hit 50 hours and sit on my ass for 2 or 3 hours. And if I was maxed out, if we got really, really busy, I had plenty of 65-hour weeks, 62, 67, 70-hour weeks if I worked a Saturday. I mean, it really can get to where there's no cap for you there. So those are the actual numbers. I will say that I also got a specialty pay for X amount of dollars more on top of my 30 to do all of my transmissions and motors. So there's a lot of money to be made. I see a lot of guys getting on here on YouTube and getting on TikTok, and they're always complaining like, oh, flat rate, blah, blah, blah. Dude, if you learn your shit, flat rate's nothing. I never cared. There are jobs where there's pros and cons, right? So there are jobs where I just didn't see. I was like, there's no way you can, okay, and here it is too. I'll tell you about it. 3.5 on an Infiniti. There's no way you can do the water pump. The book time is like 7 or 8 hours. There's no way you can remove that timing case and get that timing chain off and replace that water pump in 7 hours. It always took me a day and a half to complete that job. That's just how it goes. But I was the only guy that would do it for the shop. So guess what? I got fucked every time. Every time it came in, it was me. Those are the times where you give and take with your shop. Those are also the times where you're not always going to beat the book time. I don't care how good you get. You're not going to beat the book time. You're going to get your ass kicked. And if you don't like a challenge and you're not passionate about this trade, you will get out of it very quickly because of that. So that'll wrap up flat rate. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have experienced any of this, if you agree with any of this, if you think my numbers are just straight bullshit. Let me know below, and I would love to see, I can't wait to see the comments on this, because I feel like a lot of guys hate flat rate, but I just feel like maybe that means you're not that good as a mechanic. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think. So what I do today is I am an hourly mechanic. I punch in, I punch out every day. We get paid for our time, no matter what. But then we also get a commission. And there's a lot of mechanics out here that work this little hybrid type system where when I complete this motor job, I'll get 20 hours of commission at My numbers right now are 20 an hour and 10. So basically an average of 30 bucks an hour, and it's a decent way to get paid. It's a great happy medium because the shop is not profiting a lot off of my experience because I still get paid a decent amount, but also at the same time I'm not sharing the shop stress. Are we busy? I don't care. Do I get the jobs done? Like, do I beat every single job that I do on time? No, probably not. I really don't care. So I like it. I make less money than I used to when I was flat rate, but I don't have any stress. So that is a factor when it comes to making money. You know, everybody looks at, oh, I just want to make the money, but actually you want freedom. And part of being free is just emotionally calm, so you're not stressed out. So all of your average salaries in the United States, I'm gonna list them off. The highest paid state is Nevada, coming in at average annual salary of $60,688. So their monthly pay on average is $5,000. That's not bad for an average, because if you suck, you're gonna be at 40K, right? But what's the cost of living like in Nevada versus everywhere else? So I currently live in Florida, and we're just gonna go all the way down, because when I went to research this video, I was blown away that the state I live in is the lowest average pay for a mechanic in America. So big fuck me for the last 5 years. So in Florida, the average annual salary for a mechanic is $39,147 per year, which comes out to be $3,262 per month. And the average is $18 an hour, $18.82 in Florida. And so I was like, wow, we're the lowest paid mechanics in the whole US. But me personally, I've never, since I actually got my first job as a mechanic, I've never made less than 45 or 50K. That was without many tools, that was without a lot of experience. So I'll put this link, it's from ZipRecruiter. I'll put this link in the description below. Tell me what you guys think, man. If you're in Florida, are you feeling it like me, man? Like, are you super experienced and not getting paid, average 60K a year? And I know I'm an above average mechanic. What do you guys think about the pay? I know it needs to change for a fact. Like, we are just, replace me. You know what I'm saying? If you could replace me for someone so cheap and get the same quality, I would like to see that. But yeah, the industry needs to catch up, man. But anyways, let me know in the comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. Thanks for watching. If you got anything from this, please hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate it, you guys. Be good. See y'all next time.